get away with it.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everybody. As you know, Tamer has left for the day. So, the nightly apology of Alex, one person who has also been called away for a piece of important boss of official related business. So we'll get underway now with agenda on 25.15.11, which is the Commonwealth Land Investment Strategy. Oh, good day. So you're a long way down.
Today we present the land strategy, which was a piece of work that actually started when the Commonwealth Community Board had a strategy session about the street of Richmond. And knowing that they had some decent parcels of land coming up, this was the first we did actually about, gosh, now 3 years ago. And so we have over the last few months been working away on this. You have seen the previous version of the council, this, and we've been integrated feedback from last presentations and my colleagues. And we've got this to you earlier, but we're a wee bit sidetracked with the LGBT, so that's probably something like later than ideal. But we have a full day for presentation and discussion. CCB have endorsed this to come to you, and the next strategy sets out strategic principles and really outcomes that the community board and conduct council wish to today when we think about what we're going to do with the proceeds of that land. You'll recall the first sort of tranche of that land has been earmarked to repay it from all debt, and it will be within the next 2-year period. But this strategy really will come into life when we start the 2027 LTP work, and we'll actually get some detail behind it, what council wants to do with that land, how you want to invest it, what you want to use the proceeds, or do you want to speed up the development if that's appropriate. So all those conversations will happen as also the 27 LTP. So Karen and I don't really have much more to say, but more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. The first observation I want to make is I think we should refer to it as to its actual title, not just a Commonwealth Land Investment Strategy. Because it's only about an hour.
Oh, yes, good point.
Is that, have I got that right?
Is correct. It
So-
was targeted at the Commonwealth Endowment Land.
Yeah, just the title.
Because it-
Commonwealth Endowment Land Investment Strategy.
Yes, so that full time is correct on the attachment and this is full.
Yeah.
But I didn't put that on the page.
So just to get the context right, it's about endowment land, and when we come to the resolution, we'll just pick that up just to make sure it's quite clear with this 299.
Yeah.
Right, any questions? Sally?
I just had a comment on page 140 where it says managing council debt, both current and future, was mentioned a number of times, and specific reference was made to paying down current or committed debt on strategic assets, i.e. the hall. And I agree that there needs to be a focus on paying down current debt and aligning future projects with revenue from land sales before projects go ahead, so that we can stay in front of cash flow.
I think that needs to be changed in the strategy,
I don't know.
or is it just an observation?
It's an observation. It's an observation, and I think going forward, we do need to make sure that we realise the land sales ahead of the project going ahead, rather than looking to build this land and not actually selling it and forging on with the project as we are.
I think one of the observations we made at the Commonwealth Community Board was that this was the first one, and that as other boards had the input into their ones, there will be some things that will probably mean that this might be revised in due course, because there'll be some stuff that we don't know, we didn't know until we did the track. So maybe that sort of thing is something that could be picked up as part of that as well, to make sure it's refined.
So what you're saying is this is definitely a living base. It's not a hard and fast.
I think it has to be.
Yeah.
One thing I can tell you about it, it's probably not right. But that's not because it's wrong, but because it'll change as other things we become aware of, and the new council people.
100%.
So the new views, different ways of things, it really is changing all the time. You know, and Gareth and his team will come back and say, oh, we had this magic idea.
That was the reason for the community board, that the strategy, often we don't review a strategy, process we do for the year to make sure the work is intended. But the community board was particularly keen the new community board and new council to take a fresh look at this, with fresh eyes. So absolutely our intention is, for it to be a living document and then every 3 years to align with their, election cycle. So typically our strength is 5 years. So that, you see the recommendations that was from.
Like,
Something I'd like to see to underpin this document and what may come from it is, I know there was a presentation of what endowment land there is in the Cromwell or in the district. This is Cromwell only. I'd like to see something that joins together and identifies where all the endowment land that is in the Cromwell ward and what reserve status it has. And alongside that, another report that details the potential financial proceeds or something gives the quantum of what will be realised over 10 or 15, maybe 10 years for a 10-year plan, maybe longer. So we've got some idea of the quantum of potential money or proceeds we're talking about from the sale or use of this land. And I think those two documents joined together are needed just so that we've got a better understanding of the size of what we're talking about.
yeah,
That would be quite useful, particularly, with the new community board council, as we start moving on this. So we can, we did a lot of that work when we were looking at this wide funding, so we can pull that back out again, so it's not new work for us. And also put the background and that, so we actually following up, as we come.
So the only thing I'd say is that, like Bennington Industrial is earmarked for development. So you can gauge a really conservative scale of what they can return back to the community. Other pieces of endowment land have never been earmarked for anything, but it's just hold the value of whatever these status can say that was rural land, that's the value that you have hold those square meter.
But it is just for me to get so the community board member or council member can see it and have some idea of the scale of what we're talking about, because it is considerable. And until you identify the plots of land and made some estimation of what the potential worth would be if realised, then we have nothing to talk about. Well,
Because I guess that's what was brought up at the meetings when we were looking at just when we were going through that district-wide funding. There was a really big figure brought up at the Cromwell meeting as to a potential value. So I don't know if that's, I'm not a valuer, so I'm not going to put, say whether it is or not. But so that's what you were asking for, is you want to know a rough estimate, not, you're not down to the last dollar,
no,
and the potential for that to fluctuate over the.
What is it, and then is it tens or hundreds? That makes a difference, doesn't it?
so I wonder if there's an interim measure that, since we approved this today, that it could be with the inclusion of an appendix that takes the maps and the plans that shows the endowment land with the current capital value of it included, because that's really a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that expert's going to get updated later this year. And I was looking at market value, but a snapshot of the market value coming out 3 years ago as a starter that says at least it's in there. And then when it comes to the review in 12 months' time, that then the question about saying, well, you know, what's the value? Because I think you're right, the key thing, one of the things missing here we don't talk about is actually what the number.
yeah.
And maybe that's the starting point to get it in there with a view to then looking at developing the strategy at its first review to look at its realisable value, for one of the better words. Is that
Realise, yeah, and which I know will be a.
So at the moment, if I may, under the elected members' SharePoint site, under key documents, endowment land, we have all the endowment land in the district.
Yes.
And we have its value as at that time that it was developed, which is whatever the QB value is currently. You actually have that information already that was sent out probably 18 months ago.
Yep.
You know, the QB change as we roll out the next reviews coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, that's correct.
But that's QV, which is the endowment land QV for that land that's sitting in the industrial estate. It's value, I think, top of my head, it's probably in the order of 8 to 12, 16 million, something, whereas we know, develop, it's much more significant.
And it's because of the subject to confirmation by doing some research and putting it together, we know that we're potentially talking about a very big sum of money, and a sum of money that's big enough to really dislocate the balance. And given the restrictions around endowment land and Cromwell where it can be spent, we just need that basic information so that we know the size of what we're talking about, even if it's obviously it's a rule of estimation and combine that with where it is, especially the new council coming in.
Yep. So it's full basis.
So I like the idea of an appendix that.
Because I just wanted to say one thing about this document. This is a strategic document. Sorry, we don't usually put values into there. That's why we'll get it.
So I tell you, maybe it's the next piece of the puzzle down the track, I don't know, but it needs to be done because I mean, we're already just trying to, that industrial land is being gone, getting to market now, so events are underway. Yeah. It's just it's very hard to make decisions unless you've got some kind of context around the size of what we're potentially talking about. I suppose that's strategically all other.
100%.
Any other thoughts? So picking up the resolution that's there, mine is certainly we know it can help us helpful and would include resolution C, which is direct staff to include an appendix of maximum endowment and current capital values in the document. Starting point.
So,
Yeah, and then I think the rest will come because, as Gareth said, the reality is that the dollars is not a strategy, that's an outcome. And you use the strategy to drive the outcomes. So, yeah. Happy?
okay,
Excellent.
Yeah.
You want to move it?
I'll move it.
Moved by Nigel with the addition of
A grant.
it's actually not C, there's a new C and C becomes D.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, right, so it's a new C and the current C becomes D. So you all see that on page 127. You want me to read out the recommendation that Nigel just moved?
Yes, please.
Chair, did you want to add the, as well to be, to reflect that it's endowment?
Oh, yes, B should say the Cromwell Land and Endowment Investment Strategy, Cromwell Land Endowment, Cromwell Endowment Land Investment Strategy. Yeah. Right, happy with that, Nigel?
Thank you.
Right, with that, looking for a seconder, Cheryl, any more discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Waiting for the say. Right, thank you, Dave. Yeah. This is me too. I thought when you gave me that we looked in silly, you kept telling me it was you, but you're not.
No.
You've got 3 more
Just
cards.
giving you a, no.
Yeah, right, let's move.
Wasn't doing it.
I'm not going to make a mistake now. 25.15.12, remuneration authority determination, 25.26, Wayne, that's the report.
It is, yep. So the recent determination from the Remuneration Authority has come in. And everyone's, a reminder that the Remuneration Authority makes the decision and then they tell us and then we pay. There's no discussion or anything needed into, they tell us what to pay and we pay. There are a couple of changes to the elected members' allowances and reimbursement policy. That the Remuneration Authority have indicated childcare moving from $6,000 per child per annum to $7,500 per child per annum. And then the second one is the travel time allowance, which was going to move from $40 an hour to $41.36 an hour. Those two allowances are already in the policy, so I'm just shifting them accordingly. There is the matter of the home-based security allowance. unfortunately, commented until, the new training was, that the new council, tackles that one.
There'll be new determination coming out too for post the election.
It's actually in the determination, for pay. It's in the,
Current one?
yeah, that's, yeah.
Oh, but then it'll be changed when the new council works out who's doing what.
No, that's correct, yes, so, I think it's about 30,000 change.
Yeah.
I was doing some rough figures the other day. We just get a, figure.
Yeah.
And we've got to divvy it up by head as well.
Yeah, there's a spreadsheet, massive spreadsheet, the meeting will work on when,
Yeah,
when they get into office.
yeah.
There is also, just going to make an observation that on page 243, our policy, I think, didn't get updated about the 30K, 15K from, in the remuneration determination talks about eligible travel for distances. And there's no mention of what the eligible travel is. And I think we've got a hangover from some previous policies that we've never fixed.
Okay,
So,
sorry?
page 243. And the determination is not helpful because it has the term eligible travel, but does not define what it is. So what I was going to say is that rather than trying to fix it on the fly, is that with the recommendation that we've got, we could simply say that adopts the revised elected allowances and reimbursement policy as per the determination.
Okay,
So that'll give you then the ability to go away and actually fix that if it's wrong, as I think it is. I think it's just a hang up. We used to always do a mileage claim less 30Ks. Like that.
yes, which is wrong.
Yes, it is now.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
But rather than fix it now, I think
Okay, yeah.
if resolution C was to become adopt the revised elected allowance, adopt the revised allowance for reimbursement to reflect 25-26 determination. Then, any questions? So I'll move, process looking at me, Sarah was next,
I'm still finishing.
keep it that last one.
Basically.
Any discussion, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Oh, I didn't read it out, sorry, did someone want me to read out the recommendation?
We got it.
Let's move to 25, 15 and 13, which is, the organisational, no, once we do that, we'll go to 13, one, 13. Right, it is 24, 25 organisation business plan for 30 results. Welcome down there. Good to see you.
Thank you. I don't think, we've met Tash yet. She is our new corporate strategic planner. So she'll be looking after business plans going forward. And this update is just to respond to a request from the 18th of August when the Q3 results were provided. And you guys asked for some additional information, the performance measures that haven't been met. So what we've done, Tash went out to the business to ask for additional information, and the appendix 1 includes additional commentary around why the targets weren't met for those various performance measures. So the first one is roading, which is a measure on the number of fatalities and serious injury crashes on our local roading network. So the measurement for this is a stable or decreasing trend from the previous year. We had 9 in 21-22, which went down to 4 the following year and stayed stable at 4 next year. And unfortunately, up to Q3 this year, we are back up to 9 for 24-25. So obviously there'll be Q4 if there are any additional numbers to add into that. But there's nothing that's been found through these crashes that suggest there were anything to do with the local roading network. So they're not attributable to the roading network itself. And we'll continue to ensure that our safety education is tailored to some of the reasons that we are finding those crashes. But unfortunately, not one we can bring back within that debate. The next one is about waste to landfill, perishable property. So this one, whilst we are above target, we are seeing it's actually a decrease from last year. So per perishable property, we are down on waste to landfill. And we do think that there are some numbers that can be gained within this because the number of perishable properties doesn't get updated until July. So there's definitely a difference there with actually an increase in properties standing waste landfill. We've not accounted for in this measurement. The next one is resource consents process within statutory timeframes, which has quite a detailed overview from the planning team. And this measure not being met really comes down to resourcing, so there is a significant resourcing issue. But work is being done, so we've recently got together a panel of suppliers for help in the planning area, which will support in both consent processing and other advice. And also the team is trying to use the mechanism which allows for extra processing days where consent is quite significant, and really reporting on those days as well. So there are some things that are happening to try and improve that, but again, it's unlikely that Q4 will see us come back into happening this one. Up next is building consent issued within the statutory timeframe. So it's really driven by resourcing issues. So there have been some long-term vacancies in the team, and where we've moved to trying to train people up, that does actually take quite a long time to ensure that they can complete those consents. So work is ongoing, and I think there's probably more to do in this space as detailed in that commentary, that we may be talking to about in the near future.
Just if I may, just on these two in particular, this one, so we just had IAN's International Credit in New Zealand come through over last week, because as a building control authority, we get audited every 2 years. We want a yearly audit once each. It's moved to a 2-year audit, and the team passed, which means we keep our certification as a building control authority, so we can do this sort of stuff, building consents, building control, so on and so on, resource consent. The resource consent one, I guess, and Fiona's here, so if you have any questions, but when you're a high growth council like we are, and you've got and quite significant subdivisions too, Shannon Farm, and there's a few others bubbling away. They take on. We're a small council. We have people were critical of our staffing, but we don't have enough staff when it comes to this stuff. And of course, we obviously changed the development contributions policy. So there's probably been a big dump of resource consents to get in ahead of that. So they paid the old fees, new fees, and so on and so on. So, you know, this is always going to be a challenge for a small council in a high growth area, because you have people coming in and building and developing, and we have to be able to process their resource consents and their building control consents in the statutory timeframe, which is actually quite tight. And so, but it's pleasing to see that the numbers are creeping up. And I think the next GM of infrastructure and planning, that will be one of the focus areas to meaningfully address this, because all the language you hear from government is resource consents, building consents are causing delays and cost. If the act sorted, so that's something we're taking on board.
We got any evidence of where that has done that in our district? Added to cost as the government would claim?
It added to cost in which way?
Well, to the developer, obviously, that's the person that's complaining.
Oh, well, look, I just.
One kept fits all.
No, I think we have some complex subdivisions that have required a lot of work and have. So it's been very, there's always two sides to every story. But we have to make sure that we follow the R&M process, and the building code and those relevant parts. But yeah, I'm sure that's a common thing that developers will say.
I'm sorry, Tracy, you got.
No, so I'll wait till
Yeah. Cool. Carry on.
So the last measure is environmental health, so it's around the percentage of food businesses that the verification was carried out within the required timeframe in the Food Act. And we are not too far off this target. And what we've got at appendix 2 to this report is a letter from the Ministry
also New Zealand Food Safety. And that what they're confirming is that whilst we count anything out of date as the day after it's gone out of date, if it's not had its review done, what they do is that they give a 3-month grace period. So they're actually not concerned about anything until it's gone 3 months past its due date. And in that letter appendix 2, you'll find that we're actually doing really well by their standard. So whilst this performance measure isn't quite met, and we will continue reporting on anything that is from 1 day overdue, actually what we're seeing from external bodies is that that's not a concern to them, that we've got very solid going out of date. But there have as of now, I believe that those ones are resolved. So hopefully that will improve this figure going forward.
Thank you. Questions, Tracy?
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the waste part, and obviously that's quite staggering numbers. If you think we have got 24 kilos, I mean, it does say not less, but if we are producing more waste, is there, even if it's anecdotal at this stage, is there anything that you guys anticipate why that is happening? Or are we going to put it down to the cost of living crisis and perhaps people eating more packaged food? I don't know what's.
There is construction waste in there as well, so we've gone a lot of building going on as well in places to it. It's not kind of, it's the whole waste figure of the bundle. It's lots of different types of waste, is my understanding. Yes, that's could be a contribution as well.
So how going forward, and especially given that we've got mass amounts of subdivisions and things that we're looking down the barrel of, would we be right to split that out? Just because I mean, it's really, we're trying to promote, and as the report says, trying to promote the waste that households are doing. And what you're saying is that because of building, potentially it looks like the people of Central Otago who are doing a really good job of trying to alleviate the waste at home. I know it's an overall waste thing, but we are not putting it.
And being that are working on things like how to reduce building material waste, because that is significant. And so, you know, because that adds to landfills and stuff. Interesting, I'm just quickly looking at the satisfaction surveys, and you know, we're into the 90s for satisfaction for waste, and education around waste is in the 80s. So the community is saying we're getting it there. It's just, you know, there's still some habits that have to be addressed, but some of them are more to do with various industry sectors or, you know, like.
So I guess if anyone's listening online, if you're doing good home recycling and things like that, that's keep up the good work. And we're just working on the building side.
That's
Put a report.
It's just fun itself.
Yeah.
so,
Didn't they, Love, put a report up on what they've done in terms of the Cromwell and reducing waste? And they've done a pretty cool amount of work to minimise.
The biggest companies are very good at it.
Yeah,
most smaller builders,
Yeah.
it's too hard.
yeah,
It's too complex.
This
Going
goes-
to it's like chucking and skip.
Yeah.
And even when you give them a skip that says this one gets stuff that can be buried, this one that can be burned, and this one that can be recycled, they just stick it in the one they like.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a bit of education. But the key thing though is that you may comment, we're getting, the waste you're talking about is not solid waste, it's actually, you know, it's the timber and the crap, it's not the dirt and that sort of stuff. So, but the properties that they're coming from aren't included in the total number of properties. So the average is going up because properties that a lot of that household, or sorry, the construction waste is coming from aren't on the numbers yet. Is that true?
Yes, so we only update those figures once a year, so any new property from July onwards, wouldn't be factored in, but they would still get their municipal waste bins, and then their site collection would take place for all almost properties in that year. So it does make that tracking.
And is that stuff coming through then, the stuff from the building sites, won't be coming through bins, it'll be coming in direct to the transfer station?
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
We check that with
No,
the waste team.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know whether we somehow should be changing, how we record properties. It's a building consents issue and it's started, maybe then it should add straight away. Because otherwise you're getting an inaccurate average.
Mm.
You know, people are contributing to the average when they're actually part of the team.
It's based on rainfall.
Yeah.
A lot of my subdivisions started, the area is subdivided into four sections, but it was rated low. And you can apply those rates for sections into the lease and sales, getting the figure of what the problem is hard.
Any other questions? Anything you need from us to fix things?
Why is it just because you're anyway?
I said us.
So I think in terms of the only team that came back with sort of a narrative that suggested that was around building consents. So in terms of what that looks like as a team structure and the cost of increasing numbers of staff in that area would be a discussion that would need to come to yourselves in terms of where your appetite is for increased investment in that team in that area to be able to reach those levels that can't be quite reached with the resource that it is. So that is a conversation that is likely to be had in the future, but right now, I don't think there's anything that we would need to see.
And the good thing about that is it makes that really easy because those costs are recoverable mostly anyway. So it does actually have a significant, if the legal rates impact. Biggest challenge is just finding them, isn't it?
However, I guess we don't know what the impact of one of the more recent statements coming out of government in relation to building products being brought in from overseas. There's a high possibility that there'll be additional packaging to keep them in pristine condition to get them here, which means potentially more waste. Sorry. Nancy?
And on that cheerful note, Jeremy Clarkson, sorry, officially known, Chairman, officially known, Charlie. The recommendation is that we receive the report. Tracy's going to move that in. You're going to second that? You are, good one. All in favour? Aye. It's carried. Thanks, ladies. Okay, then to item 25, 14, Memorial Hall ethics report update. Garrett.
Good afternoon.
Oh, David, hang on. We're going to wait for the main event.
It's not. Slated after we lose off the slate.
Do you want to start off, David?
So technical points really, in a nutshell, we are on track, on budget in weekends open in the, 1st of July 2026. A couple of key pointers that I'd like to, if you can feel back down to the photographs. We are officially driving. Roof is on, cladding is busy being installed as we speak. And they so far along that the actual scaffolding is starting to be removed because the ice actually is in those areas. They are racing to technical vaults in the back of House of the Auditorium. So you can see the last photograph is where the framing is all being done for the green room and the technical rooms in there. So I'll take any questions now. Oh, sorry, I need to finish with this. You did ask that we supply contingency amounts and what the schemes to date. I forgot to do that. What I can tell you is we've got $432,000 left in contingency. In October is our final washer, which means no more contingency spent. And as it is now, we are barely spending any contingency that is left. So it's always in these types of projects. Fixed price project is a contingency gets spent up front into all the unknown factors, including around services and such. And then as we work through the role, the risk falls more to the construction partner. And effectively they're right into it now. And as of October, we're anticipating there will be no contingency spent. So whatever we spend up until now to October, which I can tell you is very minimal. then that'll be what the contingency letters amount. But I will report that in the next.
Page 254. You talk about this design and, in particular, items 3 and 4. F and E scope. I could give some words to that, probably would be appropriate.
Furniture.
It's being reviewed from an operational perspective. Next one's about cultural elements schedule. It would be really good to see what that actually looks like. Because it's the level of detail that hasn't been seen at the board level, or council table level.
So we did, Okai did do a presentation, detailing with it.
It was into what they might council. You guys again, yeah, and I think you were away actually, you know.
We will try that too.
Yeah, because council was invited.
It was recorded, so.
Yes, I just noticed that's under June, so I figured that must have been, that's where things are at, but yeah. Okay.
So can you share the presentation with us?
Be good to circulate.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And if I missed it because I wasn't here, I'm sorry. So at least I read your report.
And if F&E was a portion of the budget for, the exact figure, but it's the fit out, it's going to be the exact stuff we need, things like couches,
Yeah.
what else have we got in there? Tables, chairs, that kind of stuff, you know, we can figure it. There's a portion that's been set aside for that, and that's been worked through this now. Yeah.
Thank you. Tracy.
After just heading away and sitting in a lot of chairs up in Christchurch recently, please can you make sure that you trial out a lot of chairs for having in the hall, especially if there's going to be events. You want the public to be sitting as comfortably as they can.
You're offering to.
You like to some something crazy?
No, you know how grizzly I am with the council chairs up at the end, they don't go up and down, and so, no, I think it would be lovely if someone could, and really check out the chairs. I know that's minor, but if you're going to be sitting in the hall, you want people to know that they're going to have a comfortable.
So I'll tell you a fun fact is the chairs are outstanding and being attractive. They stand 1.5 meters off the big wall. So you can afford.
Wow.
That's for the tier seating ones.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sitting there when they're retracting, are you?
Maybe we could have like the meetings in there.
My tongue's a little bit firm in my cheek here, but I guess if we get a bit short of cash, we can probably sell some of those chairs and get people to put their names in.
Well, you should say that.
That's all you, and then. That's a legit. We're selling chairs, we're selling it. Put your name in a teaspoon and a canteen at the stage.
Put you down for 2.
And a teaspoon.
I only need one. I suppose of one
Well, not
partner.
joining you.
My wife as opposed to. Nigel.
Yes, but I just, you know about the museum fit out, that's still going satisfactorily.
Yeah, 100%. So we've got funding for baseball, right, which is part of the original contract. And as we working through the fit out, there's some bit of structure steel. But remember, majority of the structural steel in place is really good stuff. So it's small structural elements that get added for rigging, for display units and stuff like that. So it's going really well. We're working with Short and Jasmix, but it's more daily. It's running that side of the equation.
Is the story of
Yeah, so we're in design phase right now, and we have got a pretty tight timeline. But I want to use the same bills. I want to use nailed up. While we're there, it's going to be considerably cheaper to use all the on-site chimneys and everything that we've got. So, Sarah's sort of on a bit of that committee as well. We sort of,
I sort of on a bit of that.
well, you're on it on a fortnightly basis, but we meet them pretty regularly.
According to social media, Councillor Brown is actually
I'm going to run.
running the.
Yeah.
For the first year.
That was outside of our meeting admittedly, but plenty of time, so safe and important.
Just for the record, I can confirm that Councillor Brown is not in the formal or in the future.
It's my background to us.
It might be worth mentioning too that with the last Cromwell Community Book, there was we had a discussion around moving the Cromwell Community Board sittings to the new Memorial Court, because it's going to be fantastic facilities, got great parking, and that's a lovely amenity. And because we are under staff pressure in Cromwell, and we could utilise that space reasonably well because of the staffing that's going on out there. So that's something that Dave and the team are looking at as well.
And just picking it up, it's actually, when you think about it, it's kind of almost the right thing to do as well. I had the Nigel said, sure, we had the privilege of using the hall for some meetings in the past. Same as the supper room, and that's by virtue of the fact that the old council chambers that they used to have was too small for today's environment, but having been in that old council chambers at the hall for the before the hall was knocked down, it was quite cool. I guess the tradition around the chairs, but it was pretty compact. The supper room was totally inappropriate.
We have got two spaces that we've earmarked. So one will be the RSA rooms, which is quite a smaller, intimate meeting space. So when there's not big public forums, that's the ideal location. It's pretty cleared out in the AV scenario. And then if we've got bigger meetings, we can move it to get extra lot of space. So we should also keep that.
I think part of the problems was going to be big enough to have to use bigger space. Right, any other questions? We're happy. Our recommendation is that we move we receive the report. Someone like to do that? Sally, I think it's your turn. And where are we now? We're down to Cheryl this time. Can't have Councillor Brown, she runs the place. All in favour?
Conflicted.
Yes, carried. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. My turn.
Don't think the committee all the time, but get the job. You can run the gig.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'll hand over to Sally for the community vision and
Experience.
it's been an experience.
It's been on the net, though.
Item number 25.15.15, it's 259, appointment of cemetery trustees. We've got Gordon and David.
Okay, so thanks just for the district process, for the formally update of trustees from today. From four of our eight trust funded cemeteries, so the recommendations have come from the trusts themselves through the process, so it's just an option for council to ratify that and then try to be notified.
So, the recommendation is that A, we receive the report and accept the level of significance, and B, points in accordance with section 24 of the Burial and Cremations Act 1964, the following cemetery trustees, and we have them listed out: Miller's Flat, Highburn, Jimmerburn, and Drywood Cemetery Trust. Has someone moved that? And C, where's C? Oh, no, it's not. Actually, C is way further down the page. Well, it is, but it's below Drywood Cemetery Trust, actually. C notes the names will be publicly notified. Thank you, David. Can I have someone move that? Thanks, Sarah, and Cheryl seconded. All those in favour? Right, against, carried.
There's almost more people in the Drywood Trust than people in one of these probably in the cemetery.
I've down people more recently.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 25.1.5.1.6, and that is on page 264, reserve land status classification report.
So thanks. I guess going from processing this report to more technical report. So this one is highlighting the current proposed reserve land status to ensure compliance with the Reserves Act or Government Act for the land that we typically would call open space. And it's to ensure that the land is held appropriately, e.g. extension to the Cromwell Cemetery. That's just a held land at the moment, and we might put that as a the Local People's Reserve Cemetery. And that will allow, where appropriate, reserve management has to be prepared as reserves for those in the formal classification of the Reserves Act and just compliance to reserve. For example, scenic reserve. And depending on how the land is currently held or proposed to be held, that triggers whether the process is to be notified or not. So some of them will be probably notified, and some of them will be go through the Gazette process if they get adopted at this meeting. And finally, there's 3 sites proposed for the reserve status to be revoked. 2 at Lake Onslow, that's in the Little Roads, and then the old ice rink, which was part of the reserve management plan process it's a couple of years ago, for unused piece of land that currently we don't require. It's another place that we wouldn't do want to redo anyway nowadays. And for those that we need to do a little bit more work and researching how we can have them, encumbrances on that, previous owners for go back to the ground until we can sell them, so we'll work to do on that. And at the end of the day, a report will come back to the council on that, and then that will go to the recommendation to the Minister of Conservation, makes the final decision. But every now and then, any questions?
I do have one, just on the, Black Onslow one. So whereabouts were those?
I forget the beginning of that.
There we go.
But which probably that's part of the other than
Yeah.
registered like.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, cool. Right. Has anyone got any questions? Anyone?
That one like, bridge reserves, really.
I think the road used to go through there to get raised the lake from that, not flooded, so.
I suspect that the resolution is going to actually incorporate all those maps as opposed to say 10 parcels of land for soil. It's going to include all that stuff somehow, but that's just something that Wayne, I'm sure, will work out. I don't know that if you look up the resolution that we did pass it, you'd know what you were talking about or looking at what's there.
That's the attachment, wow, yes,
yeah, anyway, that's just, I think, probably needs to be part of us to make sure it's not lost. I'm a bit confused because I looked at particularly the Cromwell Greenways, and some are access purposes and some are recreation purposes, and I don't know what logic you've used. I'm going, is there some logic? Well, because it wasn't obvious to me.
So some of them are held under the held access reserves, and we try to change them to recreation. As I said, they are recreation reserves in the greenways. It's like, if you're asking, I'm not finding it out, but remind myself. Greenways, yeah, so that, yeah. So this is actually formalising what they already are. This what is it now, so that already something that we need to go for the next steps to we do management plan on, so it's another reserves act, it's quite complicated, so this is. Right?
It's a bit of tidying up here, so it's done from history, and I guess just so we can work through some reserve management plans and so that land is classified correctly. Pretty well, yes. Right.
Yeah, that's right, and the purposes of that purpose and what that plan we're taking for.
So going forward, you won't be calling anything in, access reserve, it'll all be under reserve status.
So it will be called, if it's not a recreation reserve, it will be a local purpose reserve for either access way, utility, trees, the sorts of stuff. So it can be for, but it can't be local purpose recreation reserve because that's because it's already a recreation reserve, actually recreation reserve or something else. So it is timing them up. And some of them have been like that for years, and some of them have recently promoted like that. So we've done a lot of research on the land parcels and that's where they've sat and how they help, and there's a wee bit of a realignment required.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm still confused. I'm looking particularly at Biden Moorings Ferry Lane Reserve, and that's going to be just a recreation reserve. And I still look and go, well, it's access too, and I'm just not convinced of that consistency. But something that's not going to make a blind bit of difference. I'm not going to go and start.
No, it doesn't make a difference of what you can do for it. What it does in this week, then standing over there for recreation reserve, that's for which one that is, but that's the large one, I think. Yeah. Yeah. The lakeside comes out of the place, you know, so needs further, just one large, which one you can tell us about it.
The Ferry Lane one. Here it is, page 294. Yeah, yeah,
That's that whole, it's like, it's like a greenway through there. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not classified just now, and the proposal is it's reserved.
recreation. Yeah, and I'm going, well, I'm not sure, but why is it recreation, not amenity and not access? Because it's actually all three. And I just think that with some are obvious that access got to pass through them. But I think you look at it and go, well, yeah, amenity, it's sort of
Amenity needs to be amenity of something, so
a plant.
replanting or something, which
Yeah.
clearly isn't. So it is used for recreational through there. Sometime in the future, we might put some recreation, what do you call it, fitness trails through there or something. So it gives us those opportunities.
I suppose the best example is go to page 297. There it is, that's what I wanted. Which is the corner of Wanga, Noddy Road and Gear. And we're going to call it recreation reserve, but it's got access way. If it doesn't make a difference, then I'm not going to worry about it, but it just doesn't.
Doesn't make a difference to what the land, just allows us to do different planning, do planning documentation. And if they're local purpose, that's optional. If to do the one for that, but they're recreation do.
So we've got,
Would do.
so what you've got here is the recreation reserve for that one, so you're going to do a plan for it.
Yeah, we would, because
It's only lasted 35 years without one.
that's right.
Sorry, I'm just trying to
Yeah,
say, are you giving yourself some work here to do that maybe we don't need to do? And I think if these haven't been to the community boards, it might have been a good starting point.
Could have, but I think with the growth of Cromwell and looking at the bigger use of those, those areas, I think we need to plan for how we use those, because we're getting increased to do different things with those, and you want access to different things, so we need to have some policy around that, rather than just having this land. Feasible essentially that don't give us any requirements to do different on, other than this different.
Yeah, there is a fair bit.
I'm not convinced. I'll leave it at that.
I'm happy to move A to G.
Tracy.
Done with me. Oh,
Yeah, obviously we're going to, just looking at, the land to be revoked, in particular that over Iceland.
Yeah.
Can you just talk me through what process is there and what the outcome is that council will be seeking?
So the process, so we started the process with the reserve management plan a couple of years ago, which we identified that as, I guess, some surface requirements for this no longer this for ice rink. What we will do now, we understand that was donated from in the 60s from neighbouring property, never be a name, but it's still there. So that's probably part of the process will be to send an offer back to them. First instance, once we look at that, might be revoked their service status, and if they want that, it'll be derivative on the market. But you know, the residents just those.
Yeah, I'm just conscious that, one half of the ownership of that passed away. Unfortunately, so there, it would be probably a good idea just to have a discussion with the family.
Yes.
So that they're not blindsided right before, selling properties or doing whatever they
You
like.
know, we need to sort the land and say this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will probably be the start.
Yeah, well,
And Neil, did you want to add something to the resolution for this one?
I just think I wasn't raising the way and I sort of work out what needs to be done. I was just thinking that, not sure if it's attached to one of this reports enough. Is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't get attached to the resolution?
Yeah, but you can go and look at the report.
I do want to make one amendment to C. It says approves, approve, and it should just be approves. 5 parcels of land. Okay, and so can I have someone move A to G? That was Nigel, and Sarah is the seconder, and all those in favour? That's carried.
Against,
Oh, against.
only because there haven't been reports,
Okay.
and I'm not convinced that we've been being consistent. Know what we're trying to achieve, but I think we can do it better.
Will that report again?
Yeah. Well,
So we're moving on to item number 25.15.17, page 348. And that is the ratification of the Cromwell Community Resolution for the Cromwell Bike Park. And Zelda, and you want to Gary and David.
Thank you. This report is basically, just, approval to, enter into a new lease with the Cromwell Bike Park. Just before we start, I need to point out there might be a bit of confusion as to the recommendation compared to the report that was attached. Initially, the financials of the club was showed that we got over 2.5% on the income. The income that was taken into consideration from the staff was including donations, which we do. So that was rectified at the meeting of the Cromwell Community Board, and hence the recommendation that they actually approved was the one that we proposed for you to consider today, which is just $1 per annum every month, because the club really doesn't have any income other than the donation. So just explain a little of the recommendation.
Any questions?
So that's a change to what's in the paper. I'm still facing it should be taller. Statement, I think.
It does say,
Page 348 is the doc.
yeah.
As demanded.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can I just ask a question around the cancellation clause? Which I probably should have asked maybe the board, but 5 years advance notice of cancellation, so that means that either party's going to give 5 years. What if they don't? What if they can't?
Well, I mean, it's a precedent, and it's just because of the amount of infrastructure that they put into place.
So it's 5 years both way.
Yeah.
But it's also to protect them.
Yeah, which I get, so I get that part of it. And so what we are saying is that we can't chuck them out either without 5 years. So
The community donates that much time in infrastructure into a park. You want to give them the credit. Yes.
And now in reality is if they were to walk away as a group, guess who's going to take it over? That's right. That's the logic.
Any other questions? Okay, so the recommendation. We've got A and B. I'm going to read it out. Is everyone happy with, A, B and C?
Oh,
Neil is going to move that. Sarah's seconding it. All those in favour?
no.
Against, carried.
You're done, Sally?
That's me done.
Right.
Tracy.
Rhodey, no, Stu, must be Tracy.
Right, look at, back up on the board. I don't even have to do any more introductions. Welcome. So, item 25.15.18. Welcome, take it away.
Yesterday, the Vincent Community Board approved the recommend to council to adopt the proposal or recommendation to do the road stopping in Muckledown Road. This is another road stopping from the other one we had a month ago, and it's just across the road. There's no services in the both road stopping currently, and none of the services are instructed in to be shifted or will remain in the road reserve. The purpose of the road stopping is for the other of Muckledown to be limited to amalgamate with this title so that we can utilize the property for further development. It's already occupying most of the space.
Essentially, it's formalisation.
Yes.
Any questions? No, resounding silence. Okay, can I have someone to move recommendations A through C?
Yep.
Thank you, Nigel, that was quick. Seconded by Cheryl. All those in favour? Against? Carol. You don't think you'd want to get out of here, Nigel.
That's the bathroom.
Okay. Right, a very warm welcome to Holly, up to the table. Now, I'd just like to point out that Holly was not the author of this report and has been dropped in this at the last minute. So thank you very much, Holly, for taking this on. Sorry? Okay, so
There's only a first way down, so Henry was here, just a rename. Yeah.
all right, there's some discussion.
Sorry, carry on.
That's right. So can you please record that Councillor Lewis is noting a conflict to this paper, which is paper 25.15.19, road renaming approval report, Kawariki Port. Thank you, Holly. That's all right.
Good afternoon. Yeah, just a quick one today, it's just a renaming, previously the roads, Love Court and Kawariki Court were separated by renaming. The changes to the subdivision is now a continuous road. So just to simplify everything, it was decided, and agreed with the, or recommended by the Commonwealth Community Board to, change the name to other name, sorry, just so that it's continuous and consistent with most, science recommendations. I just want to see if you see that as.
Any questions?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Gillespie and Councillor Feineman. That was nice and easy, but
Thank you.
thank you. All those in, yes, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried.
Thanks, Tracy. Right, let's move on to 25.15.20, which is alcohol fees and charges. Lee, I guess that'll be you, is it? Go on, sir.
Hey, what you do? Yeah. I'll take the report example quite simply as we do our fees and charges through annual planning through long-term planning. I thought it was a great idea to try and help customers in introducing what fees there are for alcohol licensing set in statutes into our normal fees and charges. In doing so, I forgot about the GST, which is set in statutes as well. So the report is simply just to reflect that initiative on my part and to make sure that GST is added as the fees and charges.
Nigel, what would you like to say? I'll move. You'll move what? But yeah, move, I would move here. Move on B, is there a C on there that Lee paid any GST that's been lost? Second, please. Sorry, all in favour?
Aye.
Yes, carried. Couldn't miss an opportunity. Thanks, Lee. You can stay now, and talk to us about the Dog Control Policy and Practices Report 24-25. That's controlling.
This is a statutory requirement for us to report on what we've been doing as an organisation in relation to dog control over the previous year. And as you can see in the reports, we don't get to control the number of service requests that are raised with us. All we can do is to try and minimise them with the proactive work that we do, controls in this case, but also by responding to the complaints of the service requests that we do get. You'll see that in the report, significant reduction on the previous year for the number of service requests that we've received, and also in relation to the number of rodent dogs that we've reported. What is frustrating at times as officers of the council is that people using Facebook can see that there'll be dogs roaming in our communities, that the community are trying to get the owners to pick up, but without trying to get ourselves involved. I'm not sure if that's because they think, well, we're just going to pound dogs for sake, we want the dogs to get back to their owners and more community to be safe. We also want to take these opportunities to educate dog owners as well on responsible dog ownership. So it's a positive report that will be coming to the DIA, and we'll just continue to do the work that we have to do. To answer any questions.
Thanks. Questions, Tracy?
Yeah, just out of interest, how many dogs do we actually have registered across our district?
So that varies obviously every year. So it's around about that sort of 6,500 to 7,000. Last year, it's 6,620.
And tell me, is that an increasing amount? We've got an increase in population.
But generally, over the previous sort of 3 years and moving forward, it increases around about sort of 1%, generally speaking. So there's not a huge increase in the number of dogs that we're seeing year on year.
Okay.
But it will increase as we We have more development, conversations that we've had previously, and will invariably be more.
Sure, were you pointing because you had something to say?
It's get over to register dog, gone up from 2023 to 24 and 252, 24, 25. Is that just like payment?
I've done mixture of things, shall I say, to be perfectly honest, and so some of it might be, people just deciding that they're not going to register their dogs. Others in relation to the private lands, they should have registered their dogs, but they didn't, and therefore the bishop infringes for that, so they've been registered since. But whilst we do all the advertising and the education that we are currently doing, and at the moment, dog registration is for the 50% penalty, 31st of July. This after the 31st, 50% goes is added on again, and then we start to look at infringements, which is another $300. We would prefer people to register their dog at the beginning, and this is the most economic, versus paying any 50% penalty plus an additional $300. That's probably the cost of registering the dog for a lifetime.
And yeah, 23, 24, it ended up
Only time this year, a huge increase.
Yeah.
Huge increase.
It's not going to be enough in less than that, unless you get that's a dog, right?
Yeah, and we continue to knock on doors and stuff in relation to you and the big picture of the 6,500 dogs. Yes, we put it in social media, we put it in the paper, we are phoning, we are texting, we are emailing, we're knocking on the doors during the daytime, but even knocking on the doors in the evenings to try and get hold of those owners of the dogs to ensure that they listen to their dogs. The last failing part of the procedure, we don't want to go down, particularly for long terms.
I know, but I got one.
Thank you for registering your dog.
I guess.
Mine registered too.
Our charges for dog registration are $12 for a working dog.
Yes.
And
So,
so 72 for that little one would have cheaper than a kid anyway. Like, maybe not. Is that part of the reason, you think? Is that people think $72 registered dog is too much?
And other than the fact that it could be part of the challenge for some people, simply the economic climate operating. Some people, we have as people have come to us and say, hey, I want to register my dog, but I'm struggling with that. And we've done payment plans in relation to that process and the penalties of the risk of infringement. We'll work with people to ensure that they are registering dogs and doing the right thing. Things are challenging.
72 as a fee is quite cheap for dog registration.
Comparatively.
We've had a lot of positive stuff online when
Yeah,
people
thanks,
said,
mate.
oh, I'm not paying $72, and there's people from outside our district on the pages saying,
Shut up and pay.
wow, we paid 150, we paid more, so yeah.
When you used to pay. Yeah.
And the reality is that we collect the fees to pay for the cost of administering the act that we're required to do. And it'll be no disappointment to council if someone else was to administer that act.
No.
It's kind of the issue of the top of the fees and cost of the service is perpetual, because the more dog owners that don't pay, the more enforcement we have to do, the more costs there are in relation to that. Arguably, if all dog owners did what they needed to do when they needed to do it, costs would arguably come down.
Well, the reality is that you've got to deal with 252 errant dog owners, that comes at a cost.
Up to 51.
Oh, I didn't hear you were soft dogs and tones say that you were one of them, sorry.
Fantastic. I was three, that was done.
And I guess if you look at the thing about public safety related complaints without dragging this out, it's really important to know something that, it's not significant. Obviously, one is one too many, but I think as the farmers, they've 2 fatalities.
Yes, one on five.
Yeah.
Absolutely tragic, and we would never want anything like that in the management.
And ultimately, that's one of the reasons why we've do this, to try and help the education, all those things that will stop that, not necessarily, but you hope that
The team goes a long way.
And we have the challenge of growing dogs, which is why, of council being notified for growing dogs, so they can pick them up and talk to the owners. Things happen, gates like getting left open for argument's sake, and but that just happened was for us people we started with the owners, because they don't want their pet to be harmed by anything. This is a number of families, they don't want So,
And it's happened this week, hasn't it?
yes.
In my little town,
Oh,
unfortunate things have happened.
Yes.
We don't do cats yet, do we?
oh,
Really appreciate the fact you said yes. Last one, there in debate in relation to the challenges of
aren't we shooting cats?
the COVID, native, or the et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, right. Any other questions on the conservation? Yeah, I know it's a procedural report every year, but it's good to understand what's going on and know. And for, I think, the wider community know that, you know, we do that because we have to, and this is what we can tell you about it. Dogs can be a problem. It's actually more the fact that people have a problem. But I think that's the procedural report. I'll move it. No, Ian's thinking of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he laughed first, and I did. All in favour?
Aye.
It's carried, thank you. Thanks. Right, the mayor's report is the next agenda item, and that's on page 14. I'm not going to read it.
Take it as read.
Take it as read. I'll move it. Someone like to second it. Sally, you've got your hand up first. All those in favour? Have you got any questions?
Take it to the mayor.
Well, if there's much that I'm going confident like that, we can question I'm not going to help you. I guess I will comment on that is that certainly our politicians gave some very clear messages. That one cap fits all, and if one's done it wrong, the rest of us have done it wrong as well. And if we continue to do it wrong, they'll fix us. And it was, yeah, pretty
Direct.
Just like our water.
But of course, the big problem is that with all the stuff they talked about, is the devil will be in the detail. And I think people in the community have now got some information about certain things happening, and traffic cones is a great example, and so is RMA planning, and the detail aren't there. So, you know, just because you heard the minister say something, even the Prime Minister or the Deputy Prime Minister, doesn't mean that it's going to result in the action you think it's going to come out, but until we see the detail, we just don't know. So, okay, that we'll move on then to status report, item number 25.1523. We've got appendix with some council status updates. Anybody got any questions, comments, observations about any of them? Tracy?
Just the one about the visitor levy and short-term accommodation. I guess on hold pending.
Question kills.
Yeah. So that's technically on hold. Is that how you put that? On hold or?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I could put a little,
No,
note there to say that the reason why. This is.
You happy with that, Peter?
Yes.
So my group is on long last and this is thanks to the staff investigation. This levy and short-term rental, which is exactly what's happened in the original process. So it's caught up very
Anything else?
Yeah, on page 425, Alexandra Airport Master Plan, I just bring this up because it's just something to do. This has been going on, this is before the Wright brothers invented the plane.
You mean just after you were born, Nigel?
Oh, Stu would be proud of that.
But really, I mean,
Gentlemen, please.
I mean, the Vincent Community Board made, this is the council activity, and it just seems to be that the master plan has been on hold since forever. And it'd be nice to know what's actually happening up there, Alexandra.
So our first thing, Nigel, that we've probably worked on the last 2 or 3 months is we've just started a brief to understand the in-ground infrastructure and the age of the water. And I guess firstly understanding what's there. We've got the development on Hart, if you've been up here, there's a couple of big hangers that are up there that we need to get water to and stuff. And as we've gone through that process, we've looked at the different water requirements that are there as well with the increased regulation, being water supply outside of these, we're obviously exposed to that. And so I guess that's where that's at, like, is understanding the in-ground infrastructure. We have a bit of budget to upgrade that, but once we're clear on that, we have all those engineering reports back and likely be around this table, because there's going to be a bit of work to do to bring that up to the standard that we need.
So the two commercial sites that are opening, that's just finished being built and not opening, they're going to be put on to direct demand. So there is a main line going up there now, and they'll be connecting up to that.
There's only work or it's too far apart. But with septic, reticulation vehicle, come the new.
So June and I had a conversation about it is years away, when the new waste disposal plant will be upgraded, they will then run a line back towards, their area, and that's when people will be able to connect up. It is years away. So at the moment, they're sitting on septic tanks. It was earmarked for a second development across the side of the runway. The demand's completely fallen for that, so we're actually shelving that project until further demand takes place.
So how many hangars, is there still a waiting list for that?
No, then, all those people that are waiting, we've actually got put in this. So, we've got a couple of vacant sites there from the existing site out. Like I said, so it's a drip network, so it's all got a private risk scheme, and it's feeding that network. We don't think it complies to the water regulations need, and that's why we're having the test. Once we've added the test, what we'll probably do is the main line, so we can get off that private network, we'll connect up to the main line. We're going to a trip feed scenario, so we'll just connect that network up. And then what we'll do is we'll budget that to retake that area again, to upgrade the system. We'll put that into the budget for the next year.
Yeah, just obviously the timing of the progress and the June deadline, then you couldn't give us the good news there. Well, not this one, this. I note that on page 428, got the plan change 21 Bolton Hogan Parkland, that consent has been received in the Environment Court, so that is now sitting through mediation. There will be a report coming to the council to confirm that. It's the outcome of our Environment Court process, and that's good outcome. I think plan change 19, solid progress has been made, as reported in the status report there as well. So more to come on that. Anything else? No? Someone like to move that we received that report, please? Move Sarah, seconded Sally. All those in favour? Aye. Against? He's not saying anything. Thank you. Right, we're on now to the committee board minutes on 25, 15, 24, 25, 15, 25, page 455. Someone would like to move, maybe confirm, please. Sally. Cheryl's nodding. That'll do. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Execute. And I can advise that the date of the next meeting will be Tuesday, the 12th of August. In Alexandra? Yeah.
And that meeting is principally to adopt the water services delivery map and receive the further analysis that you have to go back to.
Right. On that note, I shall move that the reasons set out in the report that we're going to public excluded meetings. I'd like to second that, please. Sarah was first. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carry. Yep, we're just going offline.
Thanks, Julie.
Weren't we told that that was moving on the 12th because we've got one more